thinking about their troubles.
Right. And what I read, maybe I'll mention this, what I Good morning. It's wonderful to see everyone that I can see here, and I wish I could see all of you who watch this on YouTube, but I know you're out there. My name is Ellen Greenwood, for those of you who may not know me. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And as the worship associate this morning, it is my privilege to welcome you to our indoor, in-person service, as well as our live-streamed service. Each one of you, whether you are here in person or whether you are joining us on YouTube this morning or at a later date, are welcome here, and all of who you are as a person is welcome here in this gathering. Our Zoom coffee hour will begin shortly after this service, and the link for the coffee hour is on our website as well as the weekly email. This week is a sabbatical week for our minister, the Reverend Carol Bodeau, so our service this morning will feature Morgan Ringelspa, who will be sharing their thoughts on self-care. And I think we can all look forward to that. But before we get started, there are a few announcements that I want to bring to your attention. You'll see these, if you're here in person, you'll see these in your order of service, so you might want to glance at those, be sure and read them, and then if you're at home, you'll have them on your screen. The Welcoming Congregation Renewal Team is looking for fresh perspectives and new voices to join the committee as we continue to ensure that all are welcome here at Westside. And you can email the address that's here in the order of service, welcoming@westsideuuc.org. We have a couple of opportunities for adult religious exploration. On Wednesdays at 6 o'clock on Zoom, you can join Christian Roots Growing Branches. And then every Thursday night at 6:30, we have our Thursday evening conversations where we have some very stimulating discussions on various topics. The Zoom link for each of these is in the newsletter if either of these seems like something that would be meaningful to you. Our Westside second Monday lunch will be at 11:30, February 14th at Bravo Italian Kitchen. Everyone is welcome to join us for this lunch, but if you are planning to attend, we do ask that you contact Judy Burgett or Diane Gray to let them know so that they can tell the restaurant how many to expect. And this is a very important announcement coming up, and it's extremely close to my heart, and that is that we will be having our Family Promise Host Week, February 27th through March 3rd. This is a project that Westside has been a part of for quite a few years now. It's one of the best ways that we can give back to our community. Normally, in normal times, whatever that is, we host families here in our building. At this point, because of COVID, the families are still staying in off-site locations rather than in the churches. They are in motel rooms that are provided by Family Promise. But our part is to provide the meals. And we do have a little more information that tells us that they do not have any facilities to reheat their food in these rooms, which we thought they did in the past, but they do not. So really, gift cards for meals are the best way to contribute to this. So if you would like to do this, there is a sign-up available. There are details in the newsletter that can lead you to that, and on our website. And then we do have a QR code right here in the order of service that you can scan and get right to the sign-up to help with Family Promise. And if you want to supply some gift cards or a gift card and don't want to have to make a trek to the Family Promise Day Center, then let me know, Ellen Greenwood, and I will arrange during that week to get the cards to the Day Center for the families. Got a couple of save the dates, things coming up. We have an endowment event, March 19th, outdoors at Westside. I don't know exactly what that will involve, but it will be a chance to get together outside, so it sounds good. We have a Canvas kickoff party April 23rd, and that's also outdoors here at Westside, another chance to party outdoors. And there will be more information on these coming soon. And then looking even further ahead, we have scheduled the group camp at Pickett State Park, having high hopes that we can actually be together in the group camp facility by next November. The dates will be will be November 11th through November 13th. We will have the lodge and the bunkhouses reserved, but if you would like a cabin, you probably need to go on to the Pickett website sooner rather than later and reserve a Pickett. There are quite a few available. And then another event coming up, Spirit Quest in the Woods. This is a camp out in the woods with our minister, Reverend Carol Bodeau, and it will be Friday, August 5th through Monday, August 8th. So it will be in a campground. Last time it was in the Smokies. I assume that's where it will be. And it will be wonderful, I promise you. So keep those in mind. At this time, in order to bring us into a time of reflection and meditation, Kayla Ringelspaw will invite our Tibetan singing bowl to sing for us. Sandra Thomas has a prelude for us this morning. Thank you, Sandra. As Morgan lights our chalice, I want to read these words. They come from the UUA's Worship Web website, and they were written by Melissa Jeter. She calls this "Love is My Guide," and it's modeled on the familiar words of the 23rd Psalm. Love is my guide, I shall not falter. Love calls me to rest when I feel disconnected. Beloveds lead me to deep waters where I sit to think in solitude. My mind and heart reshape and adapt. Love allows my ego to slowly sink. Though I move through the valleys of chaos and iniquity, I shall keep my heart open. For there is elegance in patterns seen over time. Love is my breath of breath, and just as long as I have breath, I will keep steadfast on a moral path.
Good morning. If we haven't met yet, my name is Morgan Ringelspaw. I use they, them pronouns. Throughout the 2021 year, we came together at various times to do a reading of the names of transgender and gender nonconforming individuals. The last reading of the names was done at our December 5th service, and unfortunately we do have a few more names to add to that list. As we take a moment to go through these names, I ask that we remember the struggles of the LGBTQ+ community, and particularly those who are people of color and the family of those who love them. There is a disproportionate impact on those communities. In 2021, there were a total of 49 individuals killed just for living as their true, authentic selves. Today, we remember them. E.J. Boykin, also known as Nova Watson, Adalyn Evans, Taya Ashton, Shay Vanderpump, Tiara Marie Lewis, Miss Coco, Pooh Johnson, Desaya Monet, Brianna Hamilton, Kier Libri Carter, Mel Groves, Royal Poetical Stars, Zoella Zoe Rose Martinez, Joe Acker, Jesse Hart, Ricky Otomoro, also known as True Starlet, Markeisha Lawrence, Jenny De Leon, Angel Niera, Danielle Thompson, Chris Blahar, Now, as a reminder, these are just the 49 names that were reported by the Human Rights Campaign. There are countless numbers of those who may not have been publicly out, whose stories are not told. And as we go through the new year, it's always our hope that there will be less names, but keep in mind the reality of the situation at hand. Thank you.
For this morning's offertory music, Sandra has chosen the African American spiritual Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, both in honor of Black History Month and as a tribute to the topic of self-care. She has asked that I read the lyrics from our hymnal since we cannot sing the words at this time. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. Oh, yes, Lord. Sometimes I'm almost on the ground. Oh, yes, Lord. Although you see me going along so, oh, yes, Lord. I have my troubles here below. Oh, yes, Lord. One day when I was walking along, oh, yes, Lord. The heavens broke and love came down. Oh, yes, Lord. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah. We will now take an offering to support the work of this congregation. This quarter's share of the plate partner is Planned Parenthood of East Tennessee, and I believe you have a QR code in your order of service to help you if you would like to contribute to that online. And those of you who are watching through YouTube, I think also have online methods of contribution. But at this point, we will take our offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Before we get started today, I first want to say a big thank you to both Ellen and Sandra for their work on this service. Up to this point has been all them, and honestly, I couldn't have found a better opening for this service than the chalice lighting and offertory that they did. For weeks now, I've been thinking about this service and how I was going to approach the topics of burnout and compassion fatigue and all of these messy, complicated topics. I could take the academic route, or the put your mask on first route, or the importance of community and connection. When I saw the suggestion to play and read the lyrics to Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, I first wondered, what does a traditional African American spiritual saying during a time of slavery and oppression have to do with self-care? Is it appropriate for me, a white person, to use this iconic song from Black history, or will it appear as a token gesture because it's simply the month of February? The more I thought about it and thought about the song and listened to various arrangements and covers last night and really sat with it, it's the perfect song. Since its first written publishing in 1867, it's been covered by Louis Armstrong, Sam Cooke, Mahalia Jackson, and many more. It's been used in countless pop culture references, documentaries, cult movies, TV shows, video games. I remember first hearing the song in Disney's The Lion King as Zazu is entrapped, and he sings it to Scar. Every time it's used, it illustrates the profound sense of loneliness, of struggle against something that feels bigger than us, bigger than we can cope with, something no one else can relate to except perhaps Jesus. If the past 2 years have taught me anything, it's that we're not alone. Settling our spiritual beliefs or theology concerning ever-present deities or guardian angels or what have you aside, we are not alone. As we go through the collective trauma that is living in a time of global pandemic, we exist as a community, a web of individuals that interact with one another and have this shared experience together. Whether that's you sitting here in this room or joining us through YouTube or attending any one of our discussions throughout the week, we've gotten good at checking in with each other and holding ourselves accountable to one another, to saying, how are you doing? How are you doing really? And allowing ourselves the vulnerability and giving ourselves permission to answer with authenticity. In the ever-changing COVID-19 protocols, we're doing what we can to protect one another. We're wearing masks, getting vaccinated when we're able, social distancing, all of these things that are encouraged by society as a whole to help protect one another. Even the nightly news with NBC broadcasts end with Lester Holt reminding us to take care of yourself and each other. The question of how well others follow through or the efficacy of these reminders are really beside the point here, which is that we're always looking for ways to help one another. There's part of me that wants to throw in here that if you're looking for other ways to help the community, we have a number of ways to do so through volunteer opportunities, and talk to us after the service. For a certain subsection of society, we're hearing a lot about this concept of burnout, which can be a sign or a symptom of the larger issue of compassion fatigue. The American Institute of Stress defines burnout as the cumulative process marked by emotional exhaustion and withdrawal associated with increased workload and institutional stress. So it's something that builds over time because we have so much to do, so much to worry about. A lot of times I hear this in conjunction with the helping professions, such as education or healthcare. Burnout is usually that career-ending point where we simply cannot keep going with what we are doing. So teachers resign and healthcare workers are harder to come by. Compassion fatigue is a little different. While it can still be a cumulative effect and it can coincide with burnout, it's often from working with those who are dealing with the consequences of traumatic events. Again, that happens a lot, especially in healthcare, when you're using so much of your emotional energy, your empathy, to display loving kindness and compassion to others. When we consider the events of the past 2 years, the amount of death from COVID-19, the stress of being sick or worried about getting sick, the economic ramifications, the sheer trauma of living in a global pandemic, we can kind of see where the compassion fatigue and burnout don't end with our professional lives. It comes home with us, creeps into our daily activities, and I don't think I need to explain to anyone just how exhausting living can be right now. That's where self-care comes in. I recently took a new position as a client advocate for a substance abuse recovery center. I've been teaching a class on self-care. When it comes down to it, self-care is simply the active participating of taking care of yourself. That can be as simple as eating regularly or taking your medications, or as complex as a strict regimen of daily practices like journaling or meditation for spiritual self-care. There are, generally speaking, about 6 different areas of self-care: spiritual, physical, financial, emotional, social, and intellectual. We could discuss all of the different categories within those areas, the strategies of evaluating our current self-care practices, or the nuances of healthy coping mechanisms. As I said earlier, though, I'm currently teaching that class, and it spans multiple weeks. We can, however, boil it down to the basic components. 1, self-care is essential to living. If you ignore any one of those areas of self-care, you will fail. I don't mean that to sound harsh. It's just the truth. Self-care is non-optional, non-negotiable. You either address it proactively or you pay the consequences later. That may be through sickness, financial difficulties, unhealthy coping mechanisms like avoidance or addiction to numb the emotions. Either way, we address our self-care and make it a priority, or our issues will address our apathy. 2, self-care is reflective. It involves reflecting on our current practices, identifying where we need more support, and doing the most right thing to get there. I say the most right thing because it's easy to say that self-care is black and white. Getting breakfast in the morning on my way to work may be damaging to my financial and physical self-care when I could make it at home. But it's also important to weigh in the other aspects, like, do I have time? And if I don't get breakfast on the way, will I actually eat when I get to work? What is the most right thing to do in that situation? Number 3, self-care is complex and personal. What works for me may not work for you, and what works now may not always work. As human beings, our circumstances are ever-changing, and the details of our self-care are unique to us. Some things are pretty universal, such as substance abuse is not good self-care, but other things are going to vary, and that's okay too. My last basic tenet of self-care is really more of an observation than anything else. Self-care is cheesy and corny. There are all kinds of cliches that get tossed around in self-care. Put on your mask first. You can't pour from an empty cup. Progress, not perfection. Every day is a new day. Teamwork makes the dream work. Ask for help. No man is an island. Do the next right thing. And I could go on. These things get tossed around so much because of the little nuggets of truth buried in them. Because when you think about it, it makes sense and it works. I remember when I was first in college, I used to laugh at myself for being what I called the crunchy granola type. I ate yogurt with granola every day, carried my water bottle with my crocheted sleeve. I remember thinking, oh no, I've become that person. Just wait, and soon I'll be doing daily affirmations and wearing chakra jewelry. Spoiler alert, I do those things 8 years later, and I do them unapologetically. Because for me, it works. Sometimes it feels downright silly to stare at myself in the mirror, make eye contact with myself, and say, I love you. You did a good job with that class yesterday. You deserve rest. But it works. When we think about how we care for others, the advice we give to one another, I find we often don't listen to our own advice. When I first started forming the curriculum for my self-care class, Those who knew me outside of work kind of questioned it and reminded me to practice what I preach, so to speak. They were 100% correct. I needed to apply those same things I was telling other people to do to my own life. I invite you to close your eyes for a moment or find a nice spot to rest your gaze. Think about your own life, your own struggles. Maybe you feel like you're not doing enough at home or at school. Maybe you're just bone-weary tired. Maybe you've really been struggling with your mental health or remembering to do those daily tasks like eating, taking your medication, drinking water. Think about your own struggles and how you approach them. What are your immediate feelings you have for yourself in those moments? I'll share that for me, I often feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm not managing my time well or taking care of myself the way I should. It's no secret I have imposter syndrome, and I'm very hard on myself when it comes to evaluating my shortcomings. Now, I want you to imagine a good friend coming to you and telling you they are struggling with those same exact things. Maybe they're also overwhelmed with those daily tasks or busy schedules. Maybe they're feeling burnt out or crispy, as we sometimes call it around here. What are your first emotions for that person? Do you judge them? Are you angry with them? Are we shaming them for having these struggles? Or are we more apt to treat our friends with kindness, to want to wrap them in a hug and tell them that it's okay? Do we want to ask, what can I do to support you? I believe that a lot of us are more willing to show that kindness and compassion for others than we do for ourselves. We forget at the end of the day we're human too. Feel free to open your eyes whenever you're ready if you haven't already. We forget that at the end of the day, we are human too. We have struggles, and just like we wouldn't berate our friends or kick them when they're down, we shouldn't do it to ourselves either. Why is it that we have those feelings of compassion and empathy for our friend, but not for ourselves in that exact situation? As we enter our week and continue through this upcoming Valentine's Day season, when love for one another is celebrated and cherished, I want to challenge you to give yourself that same care and devotion. It may feel silly, but tell yourself, hey, I love you, next time you look in the mirror. Give yourself a little bit of compassion when things go a little wrong. Give yourself the space and the grace to be a human being. And most importantly, take care of yourself just like you would take care of a friend in that same situation. In a moment, we're going to get a chance to practice that self-care and that love for ourselves as we come together to share our joys and concerns. For those of you who are joining us through the magic of YouTube, we will be ending our live stream in just a moment. However, please feel free to log in to our Zoom meeting. Information is, again, found in our newsletter or on our website, so that you can share your joys and concerns with us after the service. And until we see you again, go in peace and give yourself some love this week. For those of us here in the building,